Sadness, daughter edits profile for dad to apply for a job. China's electronic giant collapses, leaving thousands jobless. China faces escalating new coronavirus crisis, death cases surge and new variants emerge. Guangdong and Sichuan hit hardest as medical anti-corruption sweeps across China. Has a certain faction been bypassed? CCP's collapse inevitable. Beijing is just delaying its time. It's all covered in today's China Truths. Sadness, daughter edits profile for dad to apply for a job. Chinese adult children of elderly unemployed individuals are expressing anger about their parents' predicaments through social media, marking another sign of public discontent with the current situation in China. On August 17, the Nikkei reported that last month, a woman named Juju wrote a post on Xiaohongshu, a popular Chinese social media platform, describing her feelings about helping her 50-year-old father prepare a resume after he lost his factory job. This post sparked an online discussion. Juju wrote, "My dad has been unemployed for a few months, so I asked him to send me his resume, and I can help him edit it. He sent me a message on WeChat, and I realized how simple an old worker's resume looks. A few sentences summarize his entire life. This is the mark that turbulent times have left on an ordinary blue-collar worker like him, and it brings tears to my eyes." Juju's story resonated with Chinese netizens, receiving around 400,000 likes and over 6,000 comments. When her comments were reposted on Weibo, the topic became popular and accumulated approximately 6 million views. It highlighted the difficulties older workers of her father's age face in finding decent factory jobs after becoming unemployed. Juju's followers also responded with similar stories of their own. A commenter named Balloon expressed concern for her parents because her father's e-commerce business is on the verge of bankruptcy due to debt pressure. She wrote, "My dad worked hard for half of his life, and now he has nothing left. My dad used to be an entrepreneur, and my mom stayed at home. Even if we return to our village, they won't farm. They can't let go of their pride in working as security guards because they've been living well in the big city." Similarly, a 52-year-old unemployed worker described his painful job-seeking experiences in recent years. He wrote, "I never thought that at my age, I would be job hunting again and again, each time feeling like throwing a stone into the sea, either with no response at all or HR telling me I'm too old. These past few years have been so difficult, I feel like I'm on the verge of depression." The plight of older workers in China is often overshadowed by the difficulties young people face in finding jobs. Before announcing the suspension of youth unemployment rate data this week, China's youth unemployment rate for June was 21.3%. Peking University professor Zhang Dandan estimated that the actual figure could be as high as 46.5%. The Chinese Communist Party's zero-COVID policy over the past 3 years has severely impacted the economy. Currently, the suppressed real estate industry remains in a deep slump. The Financial Times reported that the rate of job vacancies declining has surpassed the rate of the working-age population decline in China. Meanwhile, the gloomy global economic outlook has weakened demand for Chinese export products, leading many companies to lay off employees. In that context, factories nationwide impose age restrictions on job seekers, some as low as 40 years old. Labor intermediaries in areas like Majukio in the Beijing suburbs once told the Financial Times that the chances for workers aged 45 and above with lower skills to find full-time employment are zero. Unemployed workers like Juju's father need to find jobs, otherwise, their later years will be faced with bleak prospects. Victor Shi, a professor of China financial policy and politics at the University of California, San Diego, said, "The reality is that China's social welfare system is still not very good. Many elderly people have no choice but to work. The government must make the labor market more flexible, allow people to work, enact clear anti-discrimination laws, and enforce these laws." A blow from the U.S.? China's electronic giant collapses, leaving thousands jobless. In the context of foreign capital continuing to withdraw significantly from China and suffering from Western sanctions, the wave of bankruptcies in Chinese enterprises continues to rise. In detail, according to a report from Chinese media NetEase on August 15, Shenzhen electronic giant Xiaonan Electrical Shenzhen Company Limited suddenly announced the early dissolution of the company. Xiaonan Electrical cited global economic sluggishness, reduced orders, and further deterioration of the company's operations as the reasons. Local sources have revealed that almost all foreign companies have withdrawn since the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, resulting in many people losing their jobs. Xiaonan Electrical is a subsidiary of the Hong Kong-based company Newmar Electrical in Shenzhen. The company had reportedly received various honors from institutions, such as Top 100 Processing Trade Exporters, Advanced Enterprise and Labor Management, and Integrity AAA Enterprise. Public records indicate that Xiaonan Electrical once employed thousands of people and primarily manufactured and sold household appliances, electric heaters, beer machines, knife sharpeners, and more. However, in the context of China's economic downturn, even this large enterprise couldn't sustain its operations and had to close down. This means that thousands of company employees have lost their jobs. Many netizens expressed sorrow over the closure of Xiaonan Electrical. A netizen from Shenzhen stated that the current manufacturing industry in China is not doing well, which is reflected in issues like delayed salary payments. According to him, the reason is due to the current state of the manufacturing industry, which is really sluggish, customer payments are delayed, and suppliers' funds are not coming in on time. Coupled with high rents and utility bills, the business situation is worrisome. During this support phase, employee salaries are being delayed, and there have been many resignations recently. Another netizen mentioned that if a major factory closes down, it will be challenging for hundreds of smaller upstream factories as well. Another person commented that Shenzhen relies on these factories for its livelihood, and if these factories disappear, Shenzhen will lose its vitality. A Twitter user, @WinJinChase62426, remarked, "This is normal operation, even bigger ones are on the verge of collapse soon." In the context of Xiaonan Electrical's collapse, the issue of the U.S. issuing an investment ban on China, leading to a significant decrease in capital inflow, has been strongly discussed. Prior to August 9, U.S. President Biden signed an executive order strictly prohibiting certain investments in sensitive Chinese technologies by the United States. This order empowers the U.S. Treasury Secretary to prohibit or restrict certain U.S. investments in Chinese entities in 3 areas, including semiconductors and microelectronics, quantum information technology, and certain artificial intelligence systems. According to BBC reports, this latest measure has received broad support in Washington as it is seen as addressing regulatory loopholes and capital flows, which could potentially facilitate the flow of U.S. funds and technology into China, bolstering the CCP's military ambitions. BBC suggests that the United States has been striving to garner international support for investment restrictions, and there are indications of success at present. In fact, the United Kingdom had already taken similar actions. The European Commission also proposed measures earlier this summer targeting investments in sensitive technologies. In 2022, China was the second largest foreign direct investment destination, following only the United States. However, multiple reports indicate that funds flowing into China from the United States and other sources have sharply declined as geopolitical relations have worsened. A recent survey by the Institute of Directors in the United Kingdom found that 1/5 of UK importers have already shifted their investments away from China due to geopolitical tensions. Data from the Rhodium Group shows that foreign direct investment transactions from the United States to China dropped to approximately $8 billion last year, marking the lowest level in nearly 2 decades. China faces escalating new coronavirus crisis, death cases surge and new variants emerge. China's new coronavirus situation has worsened. Dr. Li Yaodong, a pediatrician at the second affiliated hospital of Tianjin University of Traditional Chinese Medicine, reported that in just the past month of July, there have been 455 hospitalized patients across the country with severe cases of the new coronavirus, resulting in 65 deaths, all due to underlying health conditions. Meanwhile, cases of reinfection with the new coronavirus continue to appear. The officially reported death toll is already significant, but the actual situation may be even more severe. Experts argue that the new coronavirus remains highly infectious, with most people being infected 1 to 3 times each year. Dr. Song Boyang, Deputy Chief Physician of the Breast Surgery Department at Jiangsu Provincial Hospital of Traditional Chinese Medicine, raised the question, if there are cases of third bout infection, won't there be cases of fourth bout or fifth bout infection as well? Certainly, some people will experience fourth bout or fifth bout infection, such as healthcare workers like us, whose proportion of fourth bout or fifth bout infection may be higher. This is because the virus strain keeps mutating and has not disappeared. On August 18, a mainland Weibo user shared a message stating, "The high-speed train G1189 bound for Shenzhen was an unsettling sight, with the front half of the carriage filled with crying babies, and the back half occupied by a study tour group from Hong Kong, where dozens of people were all running a fever. They even walked around to check who had a more severe fever." The post also mentioned, "I didn't have a mask, so I went to another carriage to buy one. I had to pass through the feverish student group carriage, which felt like passing through an epidemic area to buy a mask." Additionally, there are screenshots of WeChat conversations, presumably among parents, in which they remarked, "Teachers and doctors are individually checking temperatures with thermometers, and these individuals seem frightened. Did they develop a fever after boarding the train? Why is the spread so exaggerated?" In the comments section, some netizens shared alarming anecdotes, such as, "Yesterday, I went to a children's clothing shooting base in Huzhou. The clothing factory owner was from Anhui, the makeup artist and stylist were from Hangzhou, the photographer was from Huzhou, the videographer was from Jiangsu, and the model was from Belarus, and they were all tested positive." Additionally, a Beijing netizen mentioned, "At the end of July, there were around 20 positive cases at Beijing's fever clinic in a single day. By mid-August, it jumped to 120 positive cases in one day. Just think about how rapidly this is escalating." Beijing's disease control even issued a warning, and the surge began last week. According to observations by netizens, on August 18 at 7 a.m., during the news broadcast by the Chinese Communist Party's official media, CCTV, participants, officials, and journalists in attendance, except for those on the podium and in the front rows who were going to speak, began wearing masks. In the CCTV news footage of the National Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference meeting, aside from those on the podium and in the front rows, everyone attending the meeting was wearing masks. Some netizens also noted that they not only wore masks but also maintained a 1-meter distance between seats. Netizens offered various comments, such as "Don't pay attention to what they say, focus on what they do." Some units within the system have been conducting nucleic acid testing continuously. The attendance status of the big shots serves as an indicator. Another wave, even more precise than the CDC, means Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Meanwhile, new variants of the new coronavirus are emerging one after another. On August 17, the Center for Infectious Disease Research and Policy, CIDRAP, in the United States reported that the World Health Organization's New Coronavirus Evolution Working Group stated on August 17 that they have identified a new variant called BA.2.86, which carries a significant number of mutations. This variant is currently classified as a variant under monitoring, VUM. Jesse Bloom, a virologist at the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center in the United States, pointed out that early analyses suggest that this new variant, BA.2.86, may be more likely to evade antibodies produced by previous generations of Omicron variants such as XBB.1.5. Additionally, health officials are closely monitoring EG.5. Maria Van Kerkhove, the WHO's technical lead for new coronavirus, emphasized that the virus is still present, and with it continually evolving, more variants will emerge. At the same time, several regions in China have recently experienced heavy rainfall and flooding, which has had a severe impact. Post-disaster epidemic prevention is now a top priority. Guangdong and Sichuan hit hardest as medical anti-corruption sweeps across China. Has a certain faction been bypassed? As previously reported, currently, the mainland of China is in the midst of an active anti-corruption campaign within the healthcare sector. Over the past month, a significant number of hospital directors and expert-level physicians have been taken away by investigation teams sent by the Central Commission for Discipline Inspection in various parts of China. According to Radio Free Asia, insiders in the Hubei medical industry have revealed that plainclothes personnel are entering and exiting local hospitals daily, demanding that doctors conduct self-inspections and disassociate from illicit funds, subjecting doctors to immense pressure. For instance, plainclothes and working groups have been stationed at Tongji Hospital, and individuals have been detained at Xia Hospital. Beijing's Anjin Hospital has also seen arrests. The report notably mentions that, compared to Guangdong, Hubei has been somewhat lenient. Sichuan and Guangdong, in particular, are severely affected and are perceived as hard-hit areas. Hotlines for reporting have been established in both Sichuan and Guangdong, and it appears that hospital directors from these regions have been arrested. Insiders have disclosed that the Wuhan Municipal Health Commission informed hospitals last week that this medical anti-corruption campaign primarily targets a few individuals. The focus is on apprehending key figures involved in hospital construction, group procurement, and especially those associated with significant financial transactions. Notably, the director of Hubei Provincial Hospital of Traditional Chinese Medicine has also been arrested. Insiders further stated that many hospitals have voluntarily severed connections with pharmaceutical representatives to reduce scrutiny by investigation teams. In recent days, information about China's medical anti-corruption efforts has been continually circulating. According to Southern Metropolis Daily, dozens of hospital leaders in Guangdong have been investigated. The Chinese National Health Commission stated that the anti-corruption campaign in the hospital sector will continue for 1 year. But many people have raised questions about why the largest medical corruption cases in China have been avoided and left unchecked during this anti-corruption campaign. During the 3-year-long pandemic, issues like zero-nucleic acid testing, fake vaccines, Fansang shelter hospitals, and Lianhua Qingwen capsules consumed a vast amount of social medical insurance funds, benefiting only a very few individuals. Why have these individuals not been investigated? Additionally, a notorious Putian network seems to have been left untouched. Insiders have disclosed that the Putian network originated from Putian City in Fujian Province and later received support from Jiang Zemin's mistress, former state councillor Chen Jili. Chen Jili became the backing of the Putian network, and therefore, it has a clear Jiang faction background. At the time, the Putian network controlled 80% of China's private medical sector. Shanghai, being at the center of China's economy, also became a key focus for the capital deployment of the Putian network. It is known that the death of college student Wei Zixi 7 years ago exposed the wrongdoing of Putian network hospitals. At its peak around 2016, there were over 8,000 Putian network hospitals nationwide with 170,000 beds, generating an annual turnover of over 300 billion yuan, approximately $41.2 billion. It's unclear how many patients and families have suffered due to this system. Many people are puzzled, why have many Putian network hospitals not been shut down to this day? In this widespread anti-corruption campaign within the medical sector, why have these areas of concern to the public not been investigated? Regarding Wei Zixi's death, he was a 21-year-old Chinese college student from Shaanxi who died after undergoing an experimental treatment called DCCIK for synovial sarcoma at the second hospital of the Beijing Armed Police Corps. He had learned about this treatment through a promoted search result on the Chinese search engine Baidu. Following Wei's tragic death, the Cyberspace Administration of China launched an investigation, leading to the imposition of new restrictions on Baidu's advertisements. State media strongly criticized both the hospital and Baidu for their roles in the incident, and public outrage grew against Baidu's advertising practices. As a consequence, Baidu's shares experienced a nearly 14% drop in value in the days following Wei's death. Global consensus: CCP's collapse inevitable, Beijing is just delaying its time. The Chinese Communist Party regime suffers from internal and external troubles and is besieged on all sides. On August 14, veteran media figure Yan Chungo posted an article titled "The Collapse of the CCP Has Become a Consensus, the Only Questions Are When and How" on Facebook. The article states that the CCP is facing a dire situation, and this year it has become an international consensus, with more and more similar comments emerging. Recent interviews with US-based Chinese scholar Su Chenggang have proposed three possible scenarios for the CCP: an internal party coup to remove Xi Jinping, a financial crisis leading to economic and political turmoil, or the CCP using authoritarian violence to delay social crises. Yan Chungo believes that with Xi Jinping firmly in power, internal opposition cannot gain significant momentum, so a party coup is a low-probability event. Even if it were to occur, it wouldn't solve the CCP's crisis because the CCP's fundamental nature is unchangeable. Even if they change leadership and attempt another reform and opening up, few would believe it. A financial crisis leading to economic and political turmoil is already unfolding, and the CCP is finding it increasingly difficult to control social unrest. Despite the regime's continuous efforts to strengthen violence and high-tech surveillance, preparing for future public protests, if these protests grow in scale, the CCP may be unable to save itself. As for delaying social crises, this is precisely what the CCP is currently doing. In the face of the real estate crisis, the CCP is preventing real estate companies from going bankrupt to avoid triggering a chain reaction. However, with so many real estate giants in trouble, state capital is fundamentally incapable of rescuing them, and a collapse is inevitable sooner or later. The longer it is delayed, the larger the scale of the collapse, and it may eventually lead to a domino effect. Internationally, even Wall Street giants, who have always been supportive of China, are changing their tune, and foreign media are increasingly pessimistic about China. Recently, even US President Biden publicly stated that China is a ticking time bomb, ready to explode at any moment. Throughout this year, China's economic figures have been declining sharply. With multiple disasters and human-made crises, many Chinese are starting to think about dynastic changes. Even Xi Jinping himself has uttered words suggesting the end of the party. These explanations indicate that the CCP's collapse is inevitable, and the only questions are when it will happen and in what form. Yan Chungo believes that the CCP's financial resources can only hold out for a few more years, and the collapse will occur in a few years. This year, state-owned and private enterprises have been laying off employees and cutting salaries one after another. Local governments are also facing fiscal crises. If even the police and armed police can't get paid in the future, who will work for the CCP? These tools of violence are at risk of falling apart at any time. The article mentions that the CCP has recently been aggressively cracking down on the healthcare system, which is essentially following the pattern of robbing the rich. When there is a financial shortage, they resort to looting. However, private wealth is not bottomless, and this approach is unsustainable. The CCP authorities keep cutting off their own financial sources and persist in taking extreme measures that alienate the people. They are marching toward doomsday every day. The article notes that the CCP has expressed a clear stance on local debt, saying, "Those who are responsible should bear it." This statement reveals that the central CCP's resources are running out and can't last much longer. Chinese people need to prepare themselves mentally. This day is not too far away. Don't forget to comment in the section below to share your opinions on today's topic with us. Make sure to like and subscribe to see more interesting topics from China Truths.